I don't care who's doing better than me. I don't care about the likes, the followers, the promotions, or the trophies others are chasing. Because here's the truth. Your life isn't a comparison. Your growth isn't measured by someone else's highlight reel. Every second you waste worrying about what they're doing is a second stolen from building your own legacy. Today, right now, is your opportunity to stop looking sideways and start moving forward. Stop competing with everyone else and start competing with the person staring back at you in the mirror. Every man has a mirror, but too often he's looking at someone else's reflection instead of his own. He scrolls through feeds, watches colleagues climb, and hears stories of success as if it's a race he must lose or win. In that moment, comparison sneaks in and steals his focus, turning ambition into anxiety. He begins measuring his worth in terms of other men's achievements, forgetting that progress is never universal. It's deeply personal. Society tells men to be competitive, to dominate, to always prove themselves, yet in the quiet of their own thoughts, many feel small, inadequate, unseen. Women notice this too. They see the tension between striving and self-doubt, between pride and insecurity. They feel the weight men place on external validation, and sometimes it distances connection rather than drawing it closer. The truth is that every man's path is unique, yet he often sabotages his own growth by benchmarking against someone else's highlight reel. The constant measuring against another's life creates stress hormones, frays patience, and blurs purpose. Progress isn't about being better than someone else. It's about being fully present in your own development, building muscle, skill, and courage where it matters most, inside and out. Every man has his own race, yet too often he lets the rules of others dictate how he runs. From a young age, society teaches men what success looks like, how to speak, how to earn, how to win. But when he follows someone else's blueprint, he loses touch with what actually matters to him. He becomes a performer in a story written by someone else, not the author of his own life. Women notice this pattern. They see when a man is trapped by expectation rather than guided by purpose. They feel the difference between a man who moves with conviction and one who chases validation. Confidence is magnetic, but it cannot exist when a man is constantly checking the scoreboard against others. The men who thrive are the ones who define their own rules. They decide what winning looks like on their terms, when to push, when to pause, and what risks are worth taking. They understand that comparisons steal joy and blur priorities. Every decision becomes a statement of self-mastery rather than a reaction to someone else's timeline. And every step forward is aligned with values they choose, not values they inherit. Distractions are everywhere, but for a man, the loudest noise often comes from inside his own head. He hears the whispers of doubt, the echoes of other people's opinions, the comparisons that steal his confidence. Every notification, every comment, every passing judgment pulls his attention outward when it should be inward. The mind becomes crowded, and clarity vanishes, leaving ambition trapped in a loop of hesitation and self-criticism. Women sense this tension. They notice when a man's energy is scattered, when focus is fractured by the world's expectations rather than guided by purpose. They feel the difference between a man who is present, deliberate, and grounded versus one who is pulled by every distraction, chasing validation he doesn't even need. Emotional presence is built on mental presence, and focus is the bridge that connects intention to action. Silencing the noise is not about retreating from life. It's about claiming your attention as your own. Men who master this understand which voices deserve their energy and which do not. They prioritize tasks, relationships, and choices aligned with their values rather than the applause of others. Every decision becomes intentional. every moment sharper, and every step forward is propelled by undivided attention to what truly matters in their lane. Every man has a lane, but too often he strays, thinking that someone else's path will lead him to success faster. He looks at peers, competitors, even strangers online, and measures his own progress against theirs. In doing so, he loses sight of the unique strengths, timing, and opportunities that belong only to him. Growth is never a copy-paste. It is cultivated in the space where he can move authentically, step by step, day by day. Women notice when men chase someone else's trajectory. They see the stress, the frustration, the impatience that comes from trying to match an external standard. They sense when a man is disconnected from his own purpose and how that misalignment impacts relationships, trust, and intimacy. Authenticity becomes compromised when a man is always running someone else's race, and energy is wasted on comparison rather than creation. Real growth happens when a man commits to his own lane. He learns to identify distractions, to focus on his own pace, and to value progress that aligns with his values rather than public applause. Each success, each skill, each lesson becomes a building block for his version of achievement. He understands that mastery is cultivated where attention, effort, and authenticity meet, and not in the reflection of someone else's journey. The man who measures his worth by the reflection in other people's eyes will never see his true value. Too many men wake up each day checking notifications, comparing achievements, or listening to praise and criticism, believing that external approval defines success. The problem is not the ambition, it's the reliance on someone else's yardstick. True measurement comes from the mirror, from the quiet assessment of one's own choices, effort, and integrity. Women notice when a man relies too heavily on outside validation. They feel the subtle tension, the uncertainty beneath confidence, the insecurity that hides behind bravado. They sense when a man's energy is tied to applause instead of alignment with his values. Emotional presence, trust, and connection are stronger when a man can stand in front of himself, take state, and be honest without the influence of the world's ever-changing opinions. The mirror reveals more than physical reflection. It shows discipline, resilience, and consistency. It reflects the moments he pushed through discomfort, the times he remained loyal to his word, and the choices he made when no one was watching. Every glance becomes a checkpoint for self-improvement, a reminder that comparison is irrelevant. When a man learns to use his own reflection as his metric, he begins to build confidence that cannot be shaken by someone else's highlight reel. Progress becomes internal, intentional, and powerful because the only competition that matters is the one staring back at him each morning. Too many men live for approval, chasing applause, likes, promotions, or recognition, believing these external validations define their worth. They wake up, measure their day against the praise of others, and let judgment dictate their decisions. In doing so, they trade permanence for instant gratification, shallow satisfaction for fleeting acknowledgement. The real question is not how many people are impressed, it is what they are building that will outlast the noise of today. Women notice when men prioritize approval over purpose. They feel the energy of a man who bends to fit expectations rather than aligning with his own values. They sense the tension between ambition and authenticity, the subtle frustration that comes from giving power over self-esteem to external voices. True presence, influence, and trust are born when a man stops seeking permission to be himself and starts owning his choices fully. Legacy is measured differently. It is reflected in the lives touched, the integrity maintained, the courage to act when it's inconvenient, and the consistency of effort when no one is watching. Men who focus on legacy understand that fleeting praise is irrelevant compared to the permanence of what they build in their families, careers, and communities. Each action is deliberate, guided by values rather than validation. And each decision is weighed for its long-term impact. Legacy demands patience, self-discipline, and courage, because the rewards are rarely immediate and applause is optional. When a man commits to legacy over approval, he begins to reclaim his power. He learns that the measure of a life well lived is not in likes, awards, or comparisons, but in the depth of influence, the strength of character, and the certainty that his actions today will echo long after the noise of others fades.